Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about deadline day expectations and also reflecting on Sunderland's beautiful win against Brentford. If you enjoy the video, please like it. Please also comment your thoughts on the deadline day on the Brentford game. Whatever it is you want to talk about with Sunderland, please leave a comment and also subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. So let's dive into it. Deadline day expectations. So it closes, I think, on Monday at 7 p.m. Sunderland still have a bit of work to do, but fair play to them. They've got the majority of the work done, and I think they probably could go into the season without making an addition. I wouldn't like to see that. I think we definitely need to bring in a couple of players, and I expect 2 to sign up before the deadline is over. I think it's obvious that we're looking for a centre-back. We've seen the Jhon Lucumi saga continue on and on and on. We also see a striker or a forward player. I'm not necessarily married to it being a striker. I think it just needs to be a general sort of player for the attacking third. I think we'll talk about it in the Brentford game and sort of reflect on the early part of the season. But Sunderland, I think, are struggling to create, grade A chances. So I expect those are the two positions that Sunderland are going to look at on, over the next 48 hours, I suppose. And we've seen Luis Openda linked from RB Leipzig, so this will obviously be the forward position. And this is kind of the player I would expect Sunderland to go for. He's a striker. He can also play on the left wing. He's quick. He's good in transition. He's a counter-attacking forward player. He feels like someone as well who had a brilliant season in 23-24, a bit of a regression in 24-25, but he's still a top-level European striker, international player, played Champions League, played Bundesliga. So this is a player that I think is top level. He's been linked with a lot of top-end Premier League clubs. Sounds like it's about 40 million euros. Also talk that RB Leipzig are open to a loan with obligation to buy. So I could see Sunderland going down that route. I could see them going, if we stay up, then Openda will buy him for the 40 million euros. That's what I think will potentially happen with this one if Sunderland are in for him. But I think there's going to be a lot of competition for Openda. I think Aston Villa have been linked with him. Other top teams in Europe have been linked with him. So this is going to be really hard for Sunderland to pull off. I would even expect Newcastle to be interested with all their issues with centre forwards at the minute. So we're going to have competition with that one. But I think there'll be a player like that, and I think it could be a player we've not been linked with. We know Sunderland work in the dark, they don't let any information come out. So it would not shock me if Sunderland were to pull off a random name, even if I'm recording this video, right now. There could be a striker lined up, flying over, and we'll find out about it at some point today. But I think that the forward position is interesting because we look at the Burnley game in particular. We looked at that Mayenda chance early on. We looked at the Talby chance. Talby less so, but the Mayenda one. We created 2 chances though in that whole game. And we feel devastated that we didn't take one of them. But fundamentally, you have to create more than that in a game. And even against West Ham, we didn't create, I think we had 4 chances in the game. We had that Diarra one, probably the best one at the start. And then we scored our 3 others. I can't remember us having another one. And then against Brentford yesterday, we had a couple of half chances in the first half. We then score a penalty, and then we basically, with our other carved out chance, to say that Isadore's was a proper chance, I think it's harsh. He's done incredibly well with the header. But we aren't creating lots in open play. That's basically what I'm saying. And we need to add an injection of something into that forward line. Now, watch Leeds yesterday. Leeds look even more toothless than us. They look like they can't create any chances right now. You can see how difficult it is at the Premier League level. And Brentford's forward line yesterday was so scary. They didn't have a necessary... We did well dealing with them. But they've got scary players up there. Atara's an unbelievable player. That Thiago was a proper, just big, burly number 9 who's just a pain to play against. And we don't have that. So I think that Sunderland are going to look at addressing that and adding in a forward player. And I think we do need to do that if we want to, not just survive, but thrive in the Premier League. Then in defence, we've seen Jhon Lucumi, we've seen Fée and Adingra from West Ham linked. I think Sunderland are obviously looking for a new centre-back. And, if they were to bring one in, you look at what we've got there right now. We've got Ballard, we've got Mukiele, who can play right back and centre-back. He looked like a centre-back yesterday. We've got Alderete, and then you're looking at 09, Seelt, Yelda, I suppose. But I think they do think they need to add another player in there. I think 09 is going to be a utility cover player. I think they'll look at him and say, right, he can play anywhere across that back line. So I don't think 09 is going to be starting games. But I think, if we need to change it up in game, I wouldn't be surprised to see 09 come on. I just don't think that they're going to trust him to play 90 minutes in the Premier League every week. He surprised us before, though, to be fair, Luke 9. But I think that's where that's going to be this season. So I think they're definitely going to look at signing a centre-back. They've clearly got a budget of around 30 million euros. So, 25 million quid to spend. I'd be shocked if we don't do that. So my expectation is 2 come in, centre-forward, stroke forward generally, and a centre-back. That's what I think will happen. Maybe they'll surprise us with another one. I mean, I'll talk about outgoings. Patrick Roberts, chance that he could potentially go. Dan Neil, Dennis Cirkin, Seelt and Huggins. So in terms of the first team players, they're the ones who I think could potentially leave. Roberts, if we sign a new forward player, I think he's the most likely to be let go. But if it's a left-sided forward or a centre forward, then we still need that cover on the right side. So I personally think you should keep Patrick Roberts. That's my view of this one. I think Patrick Roberts should stay. I think Dan Neil, he isn't playing, but if we let him go, we'd be short in central midfield. So again, it's a difficult one. If we got offered really good money for him, then, say 10, 15 million, maybe they would think about letting him go. But the problem with that is you have to replace him, so we'd have to bring in another addition. So I think if we were to lose Roberts or Neil, they would potentially have to go out and replace them players. Cirkin, I think, is interesting. He's obviously been injured. I just don't know. I don't know what his future holds. We've obviously signed in 2 left backs, so is he going to be number 3 on that? Is he going to be happy with that? Probably not, heading into his last year. I wouldn't be surprised if Cirkin was to make the move. I know there was chat with Tottenham earlier in the window, but I don't know. So Cirkin would be interesting. Huggins, I think, would be a loan deal. I think Seelt would probably be a loan deal as well. I think that makes sense for them. Huggins should play. I think it's important for him to get minutes. And I think Seelt, again, it looks like there's a player in there, but it was telling yesterday when Mukiele was sort of injured towards the end of the game. He definitely picked up some sort of knock. They left him on the field. They obviously didn't trust Seelt to come in there. So I think Seelt and Huggins will probably go on a loan deal. And then after that, I've got a list here. Pembele, Brown, Blondie, Abdullahi, Alexic, Chielda, Poveda, Johnson, Elise, Anderson, Bar, Matete, Rusin. All of those players should be gone by the end of the window, and you've got to do right by them. You have to let them go and find a new place to play football, because it's not right for them to just sit in the reserves. I think Brown and Alexic maybe could get minutes at some point this season if we have an injury crisis. But do you want to rely on them? Probably not. So that's where we are on the outgoings. And yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in that respect. Certainly going to be more going out than coming in, I would suspect, over the next sort of 36, 48 hours. Right, Brentford, let's talk about that. So, reflections. I obviously did a review, which was a bit longer yesterday, so check that out. It was the last video I did alive. But after watching the game, well, not watching the full game, but watching the extended highlights back, watching Match of the Day and their small bit of analysis, you can start to get a little bit of an idea of those sort of feelings that you didn't necessarily have yesterday. And I think the first thing for me is that Enzo Lefebvre, it's imperative that he's in the start 11. I think that he's the only, not the only, but he's our most creative player, and I thought he was excellent yesterday on and off the ball. His defensive work, which was highlighted on Match of the Day, was fantastic. I was impressed with him all game. He just does a lot of stuff for us on and off the ball, and I think his quality on the ball is so good, and he complements that with his off the ball work. So Lefebvre, for me, we are a better team when he plays, even if he's shepherded out on the left, which I don't agree with, but if that's where he is, if Regis Labrie wants to play that midfield 3 of Xhaka, Diarra and Siddiqui, I get that, I get what that brings, but you have to find a way of getting Lefebvre in there. So I think we are better with him in the team. I also want to talk about Adingra. I just think that yesterday I was surprised that I don't know if Adingra was maybe carrying a knock or something, but I would have had Adingra playing over Talby, and I think the reason for that is Adingra is probably our only proven Premier League quality winger. I know you'd be putting him on the right instead of the left, but I think that what he brings us is just a little bit more than Talby, and it's nothing against Talby. I think Talby's been pretty steady considering he's pretty young. He's coming in playing the Premier League. It's such a high level of football, but I just don't think Talby is going to give you that spark. Adingra can create things out of nothing. So I think we have to find a way of getting Adingra in the team. If that means putting him on the right, I'm not necessarily against that. I would love to see Lefebvre play centrally and Adingra play on the left. But then you're tampering with the midfield, and that's difficult. It's a shame we can't play 12 or 13 players, because that would probably suit us right now. Got a lot of good players we can't get in the team. So I think Adingra, though, should be in the team, and I would have him on the right side instead of Talby. But I also think it's really worth talking about how good we look defensively and in midfield, and the goalkeeper as well, for that matter. We aren't giving up many top-level chances. When you watch the newly promoted teams last season, like Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester, the 3 of them just gave up chances like it was candy. They just constantly were giving up chances, constantly overplaying at the back, constantly letting teams hurt them. And we have not done that in the first 3 games of the season. You can count on like one hand how many top-level chances we've given to teams. Even like Burnley's goal last weekend, the opening goal, the second one on the counter-attack's a little bit different because obviously you throw them in forward, but their opening goal wasn't like a grade A chance. It wasn't like they carved through us. They didn't. And I think we've seen that with Sunderland this season. We are structurally sound. The defence in the midfield are not giving much away. We are generally, I would say, controlling that midfield battle, or certainly the midfield battle is not hurting us, even if we're not necessarily controlling it. And I think our back four has worked really, really well. So I'm really, really impressed with how we've looked. Because that was the big question mark. A lot of what we heard in the summer, certainly from pundits, was Sunderland don't have a good defence. Sunderland's defence is not great. Wasn't great in the Championship last season. But I think they've addressed that, and the structure that the manager has us playing in, I think it's really worth noting how good we've been defensively in the first 3 games of the season, because Brentford have got a lot of threats. Their counter-attacking threat is really, really high. And I know they scored that VAR goal. It was offside, so it was offside. That was the only real time, though, I felt like they really got in behind us, and we've not seen it that much this season that teams have been able to do that. So I think a lot of credit has to go there. And our defensive core, I've touched on it earlier, but it's rock solid. Mukiele, Alderete, Ballard, and then they'll bring in potentially a new centre-back. We've also got good full-back depth. Mukiele can play at right-back, even though he's an absolute man-mountain at centre-back yesterday, but he can play at right-back if needs be, and that's the position he's played in most of his career. So defensively, we look really, really good. I've just been so impressed that we've been able to not look out of place defensively, and I think that's been the one thing you'd say about newly promoted teams in recent years. They have struggled defensively, but we have not. Roefs, let's just talk about him for a second, because we paid 12 million for him. He's 22 years old, and you look at some of the issues that Premier League teams are having with that goalkeepers right now. We've picked up this lad, and I think if you were somebody was if they wanted a new goalkeeper and were wanting to sign him, I mean, how much would he cost? Certainly off what we've seen in the first 3 games. He's command of the area. He's, ability under pressure is so high. You feel confident with him at the ball. The one knock really on Patterson over the last few years is he's kicking. But I think that Roefs' kicking's really, really solid. And I just feel calm. I don't feel worried when the ball's around him. And I feel confident on corners that he's going to be able to deal with those aerial threats. So how many teams would want him in the Premier League right now? Look at West Ham with Hermanson. Look at Kelleher yesterday. Look at pretty much Man United right now having issues at goalkeeper. There's a lot of teams right now in the Premier League who have issues at goalkeeper, and I think we've been able to pick up a rock solid one there. So loving Robin Roefs, it's fair to say, so far this season. And let's just finish off, talk about sort of the start to the season. Generally, I think when the fixture list came out, you have that feeling of we've got winnable games. But the thing is, you have to win the games, and that's the hard thing, because there was pressure on us. Like, you look at, say, Leeds' fixture list, where they've played Everton at home, which is a winnable game, yes. They've then played Arsenal away, which isn't, and then Newcastle at home, which is a difficult game. We've played 3 games where people probably think we could win. We've won 2 of the 3. We've won our home games, which is really important. And we've dealt with that pressure. We have also played against teams, particularly against Burnley and Brentford, that don't actually fit the way that we play. We don't want to play necessarily and dominate the ball, and we have in those 2 fixtures. We're going to be probably better against the better teams who are going to try and pin us in, and we can hit them on the counter-attack. That's what this team has been built to do this season. So I think it's really, really important. The manner of the win against Brentford, you look at what we did against Burnley last week, where we lost 2-0, 1-0 down though, and we really struggled to create anything from the game. This weekend, we go 1-0 down against Brentford. We reply instantly with the penalty, which obviously, it's a set-piece goal. We reply instantly with the penalty, and then we go on to get the winning goal. So they've learned week to week. They've figured out a way to get at a team. Because even before the penalty, it was obvious that we were pushing Brentford back. We were obviously going to have a sustained period of pressure. And against Burnley last week, there wasn't that urgency, whereas Brentford, there was that urgency. And I think the manner of that win is so important for the season. To go 1-0 down on 77 minutes and turn it around and win 2-1, it's rare in the Premier League. You don't see that happen often. So the club and the management and the players deserve massive credit for that. And I think I'm getting vibes of like the Roy Keane 7 or 8 team where we never knew when we were beaten. Find a way to score goals later on, find a way to stay in games. And that till the end mantra that we've had, that till the end ethos, it feels like it's continued into the new season, even though we've got a new squad of players. So it's massive that we won that game against Brentford. 6 points from our opening 3 games is huge. Looking at the bottom of the league as well, you see Wolves haven't won any of their first 3 yet. West Ham, at this point, they've not won in 2. And you're looking at this and you're going, right, there's a little bit of a gap. Obviously, we're only 3 games into the season, but the fact is that we are getting a little bit of air between us and the teams we thought might struggle at the start of the season of the established Premier League teams. So that is really, really important. It puts us in a really, really decent position heading into September, October, and then towards the Christmas period, like to get just a little bit of a solid start. We never had that when we were in the Premier League last. We always start season slow. This time we've started it quick. We've got 6 points on the board, so that's really good. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. This has been a longer video than normal, but there was a lot to talk about. Thanks everyone for watching. Please comment your thoughts on deadline day, your thoughts on the Brentford game, your thoughts on 2 weeks without football with the international break coming at the worst time. And also subscribe as well if you enjoy this content. That really, really helps the channel. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you for another video due on tomorrow, probably on the looming deadline day purchases, hopefully. And then on Tuesday, we're going to talk to Alt Endon, the YouTuber, see what his thoughts are on Sunderland start the season and all the transfers. And I'm sure there'll be lots more content coming up in the international 2-week horrendous international break that just breaks up the season. You can tell I do not enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you very soon.